Chapter 7, Bulletproof Bitches. Morning, everybody. It's DJ King Joffrey and her queen, Her Majesty Empress Yathnella, coming to you live from the palace. Welcome to this morning's edition of The Smoke Show. First, giving a shout out to Cardi B, the new queen of hip hop. Don't even start with that bullshit this morning, Joffrey. What you talking about, Nelly? Queen Cardi is the first woman to ever have 5 hits on the hip hop top 10 charts. Yeah, proof that numbers do indeed lie, despite what math teachers preached to us for decades, Nelly said with much disdain. Why you hating? Why you on your knees sticking your nose up her ass? You and the rest of the simps out there praising Miss Stripperella, all the while hoping midnight don't strike and that carriage turn back into a pumpkin. Damn, that's cold. That's probably why the whole phone line's blowing up right now, because you in here sipping haterade out of a gold chalice. You're going to have to dumb it down a little bit for all the Cardi B fans out there. Probably don't even know what a chalice is. Just say shiny cup, Joffrey. Anyway, back to our topic today on the flood of interracial images we're seeing all over television. In the last hour, Nelly, you said you weren't for it, but you didn't give a chance to elaborate. I know I just took a baseball bat to the hive of all the Cardi B's out there, so it's already a lot of heat on me, but that's why y'all love me, because I speak my mind, coming from a black woman's perspective. While I'm impressed with the apparent open-mindedness of Hollywood and media in general, I can't fully get behind the images being depicted for the simple fact that it makes black women look like we can't be successful or happier unless we got a white man by our side. I'm not sure I'm following your logic here. Joffrey laughed. Well, according to the people who produce and advertise what we see on TV, I can't enjoy my Cheerios. I can't buy and enjoy a luxury vehicle or properly clean my clothes as a black woman unless my mate is Caucasian. In movies and TV, you see the same formula. There's at least one interracial couple, at least one lesbian or gay couple. The whole LGBT thing, how they're forcing us to watch this agenda play out. Anyway, we'll talk about that another time. But it's like you can't escape it. Like somebody's got an agenda to put these images in front of black girls and black women. I guess my frustration is that as a black woman, I came up in a time when black was only seen as beautiful amongst our own. And in many circles, despite the images that being portrayed on TV, despite the statistics that show interracial couples growing in numbers, that's still the case. Me personally, I feel like black women that choose a mate of Caucasian descent are waving a white flag, no pun intended, Nelly continued. Instead of continuing with the struggle, you're opting to take the white privilege and the grace that goes with it for yourself and for your children. Instead of reparations, they'll settle for interracial relations. Okay, for those of you just tuning in, Queen Nelly made the prediction about The Bachelorette. And as many of you know, for the first time in the show's history, we have an African-American female. And for the past hour, Nelly's basically been calling her a coon, and I ain't even say all that. Joffrey was turning the tables, instigating the instigator. She is perpetrating a fraud, though, Nelly explained. We have an attractive black woman in the public eye who's going to choose a white guy over a black guy. She's perpetrating a fraud because she's telling black women that the only way to be successful is with a white man on your arm. She's further perpetrating a fraud to black men, saying that they aren't good enough to be with a successful black woman. And that we moved on from you. You see conspiracies in everything, Joffrey shook his head. It probably ain't even that deep. You watch. They're going to have kids. And if they're girls, and the girls' mama's going to teach them to search for white knights and be little Stacey Dashes and Sage Steels, self-hating whores who will probably going to be lobbying for a beige race. If they have boys, they're going to raise them to be like little Ben Carsons and vote Republicans like good little house Negroes should. But when it's time to send them to college, they're going to apply for all the minority money they can get. As a matter of fact, I want all of y'all to hit up the wannabe white princesses on Twitter and use hashtag SOS, sellout sisters, because in order to stay woke, you got to be awake in the first place. And sadly, this chick and a whole generation are dead asleep. Looks like we lost another one to the sunken place, Joffrey. Swirl Girl sorority, just another member. They were controversial and entertaining. Two critical pieces to anything that would be successful in the mainstream market these days. Which is why Ganson paid nearly a king's ransom to get their producers to host a segment on the air. And on that note, let's get to our next segment. We got four very beautiful ladies in the studio this morning. Allow us to introduce you to the four horsewomen of Dark Horse. Jada Fior, Chloe Stone, Kitten DeVoe, and last but not least, the matriarch. The reigning queen of the sex game, the lovely, lusty Monasia de Soul. Canned applause played through their headphones and across the radio waves as the starlets were introduced. Ganson spared no expense in bringing out his heavy hitters to promote his brand. Individual starlets that he had collected and placed on his crown. Despite how relatively mainstream porn had become, though it was still a taboo subject in polite conversation, Ganson figured that he could better reach his customer base by using the same marketing arms that other entertainment outlets utilized. The target audience for Joffrey and Nelly's show was smack dab in the 18 to 35 bracket, exactly where Ganson wanted to be. DJ King Joffrey and Queen Yanela had arguably one of the most listened to morning shows in urban radio. Plus, their out-of-market popularity and syndication meant instant exposure into the collective conscience of millions of listeners. Ganson knew that if even a fraction of that number were curious enough to do a Google search for Dark Horse or the women that represented it, such exposure could further result in the restructuring of the current online subscription porn market. Though long in the tooth by porn standards, the names of the three women flanking Monasia were well known, as each starlet had achieved crossover recognition and dominant cover status on at least 450 films collectively to this point. Of course, he would never dream of having them take their clothes off at this late date, despite their MILF status. At least not right now. Instead, the star of the show was his current cash cow, Monasia. Welcome, ladies, Nelly offered hospitality, nodding in their direction as she turned again to face the microphone. I'm curious. Y'all see a sex soror like Cardi B Wack go from dropping her drawers to dropping what could be mistaken as lyrics and making a living outside of the sex industry. Y'all got any hoop streams like that? The girls chuckled at the cleverly worded diss, all except Monasia, who stepped to the plate immediately, smacking Nelly's fastball right back at her with a single swing. First of all, I don't know why you hating on that chick. She came from nothing and got the whole world clamoring for her music. If anything, as a black woman, I'd have thought you'd be praising her. Joffrey Revenge clapped loudly as the life drained out of Nelly's face, signaling the gut punch she had taken, which only made him clap all the more. Monasia knew what time it was. She knew what often happened to guests on this show. Any meekness or trepidation would be immediately interpreted as weakness. She knew who she was, and she knew what she did for a living. Going on this show, dealing with these particular personalities, was the equivalent of Christians being led into the Roman Colosseum to be fed to the lions. If she was going down, though, it wasn't going to be without a fight.